So thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon for today's Innovation Pathways webinar. My name is Callie Cornell from the Center for Collaborative Education. And today we're so excited to explore the topic of building inclusive pathways through ensuring access to work-based learning for students, particularly for students with disabilities and for English learners. We have a really incredible group of panelists that are joining us, and we're really excited to learn from them. So we hope you all continue to be healthy and safe. We know that our current climate continues to be a tremendously difficult one, and particularly this week seems to be an incredibly busy one for everybody sort of getting things in before the Thanksgiving holiday. And so we're really grateful that you made the time to be here with us this afternoon. If we could go to the next slide, please. Just for one more slide. So just so that you're aware, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted for you and for your colleagues to view after the webinar. We do also have some closed captioning options available for you should you require or want to use the live transcription. So in the top left-hand corner of your Zoom screen, you should see a red live button that looks like the image on the screen from the slide that we're sharing. So if you click that down arrow, you'll see an option to open a web browser window so that you can view those closed captions in real time. Next slide. So while Zoom and virtual platforms are sort of second nature to all of us by now, we still want to share just a few things to make the most of this virtual webinar this afternoon. We'll ask that you keep yourself on mute while presenters and other participants are speaking so that way we can combat any background noise. We'll ask that you adjust your lighting so that we can see you. And we'll really make use of the chat today. So be sure to open up that chat window so that you can contribute and you can read others' posts and you can submit questions throughout the webinar today. And if you'd like to see presenters throughout the workshop, you can click speaker view on your control panel, and the person that's currently speaking will sort of pop up as the front sort of picture video box on your screen. So with that, we'd like to introduce ourselves. So if you go to the next slide on your screen, here's the Innovation Pathways team, and we're all tremendously excited to be here with you today. I am Callie Cornell, Innovation Pathways Consultant with the Center for Collaborative Education. I'm joined by our Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education colleagues, Jennifer Guatkin and Carrie Occasion. David Bard from the DESE team is also joining us today as well. And from CCE, we have the Executive Director, Oscar Santos. You'll hear from Diana LeBeau later in the webinar. Laura Toda is here to help us facilitate and support some of our tech needs today. So please reach out to Laura via the chat. She's one of our co-hosts if you run into any tech issues. And Andress St. Rose is not with us today, but her name might be familiar to you as she supports a lot of our program evaluation efforts. And just quickly, for those who are unfamiliar with CCE, we are a Boston-based organization whose mission is to transform schools to ensure all students succeed. So CCE has been partnering with DESE last year and this year to provide technical assistance to both existing Innovation Pathways designees, as well as those who are in the application process this year. So we're hosting a number of events, including workshops, webinars, program spotlights, and a professional learning community series that support sharing of ideas and connections across Innovation Pathways Network. We know that some of you who are joining us today have indicated that you are brand new to Innovation Pathways. So first, welcome. And we also want to just quickly review what are Innovation Pathways. So Innovation Pathways are state-designated programs that connect student learning to in-demand broad industry sectors and guide participating students to relevant post-secondary education and training. So the programming in Innovation Pathways is really designed to provide students with coursework and experiences in high-demand industry. And they're designed to create strong partnerships with employers in order to expose students to career options and help them develop the knowledge and skills related to that chosen field of study while they're still in high school. And participation in this kind of pathway really contextualizes student learning and engages students in their high school experience and can lead to meaningful opportunities and meaningful careers for students in a relevant industry sector. Just very briefly, there are 5 guiding principles that are key to Innovation Pathways programming. If we could go to the next slide, please. And in order to receive the Innovation Pathways designation, applicants are required to demonstrate that their programming is rooted in all five of these guiding principles. Those principles are listed here on the screen: equitable access, guided academic pathways, enhanced student supports, connection to career, and effective partnerships. Today's topic of inclusive access for English learners and students with disabilities, particularly in work-based learning experiences, is most closely related to three of these guiding principles of equitable access, enhanced student supports, and connection to career. I'll talk a little bit more about those in just a moment. If you'd like more information on Innovation Pathways or to see materials from any of our previous events, we have an Innovation Pathways Technical Assistance website. So that link is in the chat box and also here on the screen. And so you can access all of the materials from previous events. You can register for upcoming technical assistance events, all of which this year will be virtual. It has our Innovation Pathways Toolkit and a number of other resources there. So we encourage you to go there and take a look and skim through what's on the website. So today, we're really excited to have a panel of practitioners with us to highlight and share their work and experience in ensuring inclusion and access to work-based learning, specifically, with students with disabilities and English learners. We'll do introductions shortly, but we're really thrilled to have represented on our panel a current Massachusetts Innovation Pathway School, a student and a multi-language learner specialist from Providence, Rhode Island, and the Workforce Development Coordinator in San Bernardino, California. And as is always a goal of each of our Innovation Pathways events, we'll hope that you'll build connections across the Innovation Pathways network. So with those goals in mind, our agenda will begin with some introductions and some connections and a bit of context setting. Following that, we'll jump right in to hear from our panelists. You'll get a chance to reflect on what you hear in the panel and engage in a full group Q&A. And then we'll have just a few minutes of closing, which will take us to the end of our hour together. And before we dive in, we wanted to take a moment to review these established community agreements, which are similar to group norms. These may look familiar to many of you if you joined us in previous events. These days, we're spending a whole lot of time in remote and virtual settings, so it's worth reminding ourselves about these agreements. And so I'll ask if you could review these for just a moment, and if there's anything that you'd like to add or change, please feel free to put that into the chat now. So I'll give you a minute to read through these community agreements. And finally, I'll ask you to pick out at least one agreement you want to keep in mind as we go through the webinar this afternoon. You don't have to share it with anyone or put it in the chat, but just sort of as a note to yourself to keep in the back of your mind. Next slide, thank you. And sort of as it's become a practice for us, we want to acknowledge that these are not ordinary times. Virtual learning, virtual teaching, and virtual working is a stressor for all of us in many different kinds of ways. So this cartoon on the screen here is headlined Teaching Online with a quote underneath that says, "You have 736 new messages." So who can relate to that? You can do a quick hand raise if that's something that feels really relatable to you. So we just wanted to quickly share this as a reminder that remote teaching and professional learning requires us all to be a bit more flexible and understanding of one another. There are distractions and interruptions from email inboxes, from partners and children and pets and technology glitches. We know that all of these can and will likely happen, and so we'll be patient with one another as we engage in this professional virtual learning experience together. So with that, we want to quickly do a connections activity to get to know who is here on the webinar and who all of you are. So in the chat, if you could please share with us your name, your school or district or organization, and then let us know what is something either Innovation Pathways related or work-based learning related that you're proud of so far this year. This year has been trying in so many different ways, and so what's something that makes you feel really proud related to Innovation Pathways or related to work-based learning? I'll give you a moment to put those in the chat. So feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll come back in a moment to sort of skim and review some of what you share. Excellent. I see Uxbridge is talking about virtual job shadows. Excellent. They are moving so quickly. I don't have time to read them all. So thanks for sharing them here. But we've got really good representation across the state. Looks like we've got some school-based folks. We have folks from MassHire workforce boards. We have folks from DESE joining us. Awesome, a really great representation across the state. So please keep those coming in. We'd love to know what you're feeling really proud of and encouraged by so far this year. Get to know who you all are. So keep going with that, and sort of as we go into our next slide to get to introduce our panelists. So just to ground us, a few slides back, I mentioned the 5 guiding principles that Innovation Pathways designees are required to demonstrate in their programming. Today's presentation is most closely related to 3 of those principles specifically, those you see on the screen here of equitable access, enhanced student supports, and connection to career. Under the guiding principle of equitable access, designated innovation pathway programs should prioritize students that are typically underrepresented in education in their program's enrollment and completion. And so to facilitate this, programs should be structured in a way to eliminate barriers to student participation. Under enhanced student supports, sufficient wraparound services are incorporated to promote student academic success and course completion, taking into consideration diverse needs of student populations. And then finally, under connection to career guiding principle, this programming is required to expose students to a variety of career opportunities, including greater depth in careers relevant to their selected pathway, by providing opportunities, for example, for targeted workforce and career skills development, career counseling, and elements of experiential learning and work-based learning. Innovation pathway programs must create an opportunity for students to complete at least 100 hours of career immersion experience, either as an internship or a capstone class, and offered structure, work readiness activities, and work-based learning experiences. The specifics about how each of these key design principles are implemented plays out differently in every school. And so we're really excited today that our panel brings a breadth of local, regional, and national knowledge to work-based learning. And so with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague Diana to introduce our panelists.
Thank you, Callie. And I apologize in advance. I have a first grader who is doing his online learning of his day in the other room. So if you hear any background noise, I apologize. So today I am happy to introduce our panelists joining us today to focus on what works for them in ensuring access to their work-based learning experiences. And by access, we're really thinking specifically about English learner students. We're thinking about students with disabilities or other students who receive special education services, and really thinking about all of the students that you know that could really benefit from and contribute well to a partnership with an external organization in some capacity, whether that be through a capstone or an internship or an other work-based learning experience, but for whom there may be additional supports or additional ways to loop them into the work. So today, our first panelist, I will introduce each individually. They'll share for 3 or 4, 5 minutes a little bit about themselves and how they've worked for inclusion in work-based learning. And then at the end, we'll have a chance for you all to ask questions of all of our panelists. So our first panelist today is Amanda Howe, who was the Massachusetts STEM Teacher of the Year for 2019. She is a technology and engineering teacher at Mashpee Middle High School. She's in her 16th year of teaching robotics, technology, and engineering. And she earned her STEM Teacher of the Year award due to her ability to engage all learners in a real-world applicable curriculum that allows students to develop 21st century skills and prepares them for a path in higher education or career upon high school graduation. So we thought we'd start with our local panelist, and I'll turn it over to you, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen here. Bear with me for 1 second, hopefully. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. Awesome. I love the thumbs up. I use it regularly in my class with my students. So today I just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of sneak a peek into my classroom. So I am fortunate enough to teach in the wonderful school district of Mashpee, Massachusetts here on Cape Cod. And we have an advanced manufacturing innovation pathway here in Mashpee Middle High School. I like to think of myself as I'm the first opportunity for our Mashpee students to get to understand what engineering is, to kind of understand how their education can connect to the real world. So when they come into my classroom, they may be 8th graders or they may be juniors in high school and they're here to learn engineering. But I try to connect them with our youngest learners down at the elementary school so they can start to build those 21st century skills of communication, socialization, confidence in themselves. If you look at the pictures, you see some students in my class and they represent a wide variety of students. No one is that cookie cutter student that you see who's always successful. I like to pride myself on that. My special education students really excel in my class. Students that are in maybe a typical academic setting who need to have a paraprofessional in their classroom are able to come into my robotics class and perform individually at the same level as all of the other students in the classroom. They are able to, sometimes they're better at coding or they're better at building robots because their disability actually becomes a strength for them. They're able to maybe focus on something that's more abstract, or they don't have to just write an essay, but they can work independently at their own pace. And these are those skills that are going to become important for them to be able to identify what's going to make them successful when they graduate from Mashpee Middle High School. So that's just kind of a peek of my classroom. We also, though, tend to here in Mashpee try to host opportunities for kids to explore areas that they wouldn't normally get on a day-to-day classroom and get to connect with industry professionals. And so one of the activities I wanted to highlight for you was last year, along with the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe, I partnered with them for us to have our first Upper Cape Cod Hackathon. And the goal was to actually bring students together who normally don't see themselves coding or don't see themselves programming, have never actually explored what computer science is. And so we identified who those students were, those underrepresented populations. We brought them to the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe for the day. We had past graduates who worked for Raytheon and Wayfair come back and actually teach our students and explore computer science. Our students came from Mashpee, Sandwich, Falmouth. The local high schools came together, which we very rarely put students together on an academic setting from multiple schools. We do it on the athletic fields all the time, but we never give kids that opportunity to collaborate academically. And this was something that kids had not had experience with. It was great because we highlighted the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe. There were tribal members there who got to share their culture with our students, with the local district. And the kids actually came together and created computer science hacks to better the Cape Cod community and better the world. I feel like this is the epitome of work-based learning skills for our students because we all get a job. We don't know individuals when we take that job. We don't know what skills we bring to the table or they bring to the table, but we have to learn to collaborate. We have to learn to come together. And this was an opportunity for all students to do this. It really worked out well. Due to COVID, we're hoping to have a virtual Upper Cape Cod Hackathon 2 in the spring. And we hope to continue it as an annual event in person. Another activity that I find that really actually promotes work-based learning skills for my students, especially including my students of different cultural backgrounds and special education students, is this engineering carnival, energy carnival that we do in collaboration with the Cape Light Compact. My high school students go down to our 3 through 6 building and they actually demonstrate projects. They demonstrate anything related to STEM to our youngest elementary school kids. It builds so much confidence in my special education students. And it's truly the circle of learning because they actually attend the carnival in 3rd through 6th grade, and then they become the teachers in high school. And those kids, I've had special education students say to me, Mrs. Howe, I remember going to the energy carnival, and now they get to teach it back. And the elementary school teachers say, that student struggled with me in 4th grade or 5th grade. And now look at them, they're a junior and they're presenting on robotics or they're presenting on energy and STEM. So I think the biggest thing you can do for your special education students or your English language learner students moving forward is to make them think outside of the box. take them out of their natural environment for education and let them see that it can be different. Innovation Pathways allows students to find their passion, and your job as a teacher is to help all of those students find their passion differently than the way they've seen it for every single year of their education. They need to just be able to be themselves. I hope that that was what you were looking for, and I hope that helps. I'm truly passionate about what I do. I love my students. I'm glad to be in the classroom, and I hope we can just, fingers crossed, still be with them as the year moves on.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And please stick around. We'll have a chance for Q&A afterward. If you have a specific question for Amanda, please feel free to add it to the chat. And Amanda, I'd encourage you, they would love a link to your website if you could add that to the chat as well. And now we're actually going to move on to our next presenter, but I do encourage you all to add any questions to the chat now so you don't forget them if they're about Amanda's presentation. So our next presenter is Rose Gonzalez. Rose is presently serving as the Workforce Development Coordinator for San Bernardino City Unified School District, a large urban school district that serves roughly 50,000 scholars in Southern California. So this is our first out-of-state speaker. They have 43 linked learning activities with, linked learning academies with embedded work-based learning opportunities that focus on equity, access, and inclusion for all scholars. And I know in speaking with Rose, she's worn a few different hats through the years as well. So she can probably speak to some great experiences she's had from multiple hats that she's worn. So I know there's people here representing all variety of roles in schools. So Rose, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. For me, it's still morning over here in California, and we've got some sunshine here. I heard it might be a little bit cold where you're at, but thank you for inviting me to come speak to you today. I wanted to give you a little bit about my background. So I started off teaching world history to 10th graders, and in California, we have something called California Partnership Academies. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it sounds like it's along the lines with the types of work that you all are doing. And so I taught for 2 California Partnership Academies, a Digital Arts Academy, and then also a Health Academy. I've taught also specially designed academic instruction in English, or we call them SEDAI classes in California, where I had students who were English learners that were getting some extra support as they were mainstreamed into regular classrooms. I've also taught with a co-teacher, a co-special education teacher, world history classes for our students with special needs. I've served as the work-based learning teacher for Linked Learning Academies for another school district. I've also been the coordinator for Culinary Academy. And then I've served as a teacher on assignment for Linked Learning for our Linked Learning Academies for another school district. And then now my present role is a coordinator for workforce development here in San Bernardino City Unified School District. So that gives you a little bit of idea of my background. In my current role, my main focus is on work-based learning and particularly internships. We're also moving into the area of apprenticeships. But with our internships, we've seen some really awesome success, including students with special needs. And here in San Bernardino, when we talk about our students with special needs, the first thing that we keep in mind is that our students with special needs are general education students first, right? They're not just special education students. No, they're general education students. They just have some extra needs. And we just need to be able to provide those supports for those students. So we have an internship program that we've had for about 2 years now that we built. And my proudest moment with this internship program, we've had about 1,000 students go through it so far. But my proudest moment is including our moderate to severe special education students. And I'd be happy to answer questions about how we made that happen. But with our internship program, we have our students co-enroll in our local community college, San Bernardino Valley College, and students earn a work readiness certificate. So they take a college course where they earn a certificate that kind of gets them ready for that work-based learning. And our moderate to severe education students also did that. So they earned that. They took that college course, they earned the work readiness certificate, and then we put our students out into the workforce. So we had our students go out and serve 120 hours in internships out in the community. And while they're doing that, we have them co-enroll in our community college in the work experience class. And we've had some great success with our moderate to severe special education students. So we've got a bunch of supports that we had set up for them. And I'd be happy to share more information about that. And I wanted to also share a link to our district website that shows our different academies. So we've got 43 different academies. We have 9 high schools. We have about 13,000 high school students, and our work-based learning is growing and growing. So thank you for having me here today, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Rose. And we'll definitely have a chance to answer questions. So again, just a prompt for anybody who has a specific question for Rose or Amanda to please add that to the chat if you'd like, or you can hang on to it until we have the Q&A section in a few minutes. So now we'll introduce our third sort of co-presenters, our third group. And it is Maria Hapa. I'm not positive I'm saying your name right, so please correct me when it's your turn. And Graham Oakland from the Met School in Providence, Rhode Island. So Graham is the coordinator of the Multilingual Learner Program at the Metropolitan Regional Career and Technical Center in Rhode Island, or the Met. He's lived and worked in Vietnam, Taiwan, and Costa Rica, and has been working with culturally and linguistically diverse students for over 12 years. Maria is an 11th grade student at the Met, and she is originally from the Dominican Republic. Maria loves to help people and aspires one day to become a pediatrician. She is, as I mentioned, an 11th grade student right now. So Graham and Maria, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me all right? Make sure. I'm going to share my screen and pull up our Google slideshow here. Okay, great. So thanks for that introduction. I'm just going to frame what the Met School is all about before we start with the main event, which is Maria. But the sort of the philosophical overview of the Met is one student at a time. So what we do is encourage the students to explore their interests and passions and go in, we help them and encourage them to find internships where they will go and intern 2 days a week, depending on the site, 2 days, maybe more, and get hands-on learning and really develop a deeper knowledge for that career. They have a mentor at the site that is in contact with their advisor and the school. And then when the student is back on campus, they develop projects around the internship and the career that they're exploring. And the idea there is they're deepening their knowledge base pertaining to that individual career. And the project is then meant to give back or benefit the LTI or internship site. LTI is an acronym for Learning Through Internship. And so the idea is it's a mutually beneficial relationship with the student learning as much as possible about the career, and then developing the project and giving it back to the internship. The idea is it's just constant mentorship from the site, and then a connection between the advisor and school, the site, and the student at the center of it all. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Maria, who's going to present to us about her experience at the Met and some of her passions and interests. You there, Maria?
Yes.
All right.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. And yes, you said my name right. My name is Maria Japa, and I am an 11th grader at the Met High School. I moved from the Dominican Republic to the United States in November of 2016 when I was in 7th grade. I am interested in becoming a pediatrician and helping others, especially children. I decided to go to the Met because they give students the opportunity to join internships and learn about different professions. Since I have been at the Met, I have had 6 different internships, but I'm only going to talk about one because of time. The internship I'm going to talk about is when I interned as a teacher assistant in a bilingual school. I assisted the students in reading skills and sight words and clarified any information that the students had questions about so they didn't fall behind. I also provided support to the teacher for whatever she needed. I have always enjoyed working with children, so I was happy to work with them either at a hospital or in a school. I'm very interested in their likes and dislikes and to compare these at different ages. When COVID came, I could no longer attend my internship because the school closed. I had to adjust my projects so I could work from home. I decided to move my focus to my parents, so I started using the lessons I use in the school to teach my parents English because my parents didn't know English. My mom understands a little bit now, but she didn't know English. I created a class for my parents from 4 to 5 on Tuesday and Thursday. I started with the alphabet sight words, and then I moved on to colors and things. Before I knew it, my parents volunteered me to help their friends learn as well. I named my school A New Beginning because I believe age to learn you can learn at any time, any day. And I made certificate of completion after the class ended. The Met has always supported me. They have provided transportation for me, and both my advisor, Callie, and my principal, Janet, have come to visit me at my internship at least 3 times per year for an observation. They always make sure that I am getting what I need. Callie is in constant contact with my mentor and my parents to make sure I am attending my meetings and fulfilling my responsibilities. When I am back in school, Callie and other staff members support our advisory and guide me through the completion of my project. Additionally, I have a scheduled one-on-one every week with the advisor for 30 minutes every week. And I know that I can contact Callie whenever I have questions or need anything. I would like to thank you all for listening to my presentation and learning more about me and the Met High School. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you, Graham. It was really wonderful to hear the student perspective as well. So with that concludes the share out from our presenters, and now we can open it up for questions from the group. So a couple of notes about this. First of all, I have been keeping an eye on the chat, so I have a few questions coming from you all that I can lead off with. However, you can use the hand raise feature, or you can use the chat to add any additional questions that you might have for any of the presenters. Or if you have just sort of a general question, we can give the presenters the go ahead just to jump in if they feel like they can answer the question. You can use the hand raise feature or the chat. We'll keep our eyes on both. But I want to kick us off with a question I saw that came up in the chat, and this one was for you, Rose. It was related to the partnership with the Institute of Higher Education you were mentioning. And Misha asked about that work readiness certification. Was it through a dual enrollment? Was it specifically backed by the college, and what that looked like?
Yes. Hi, thank you for the question. I added a link in the chat to the actual San Bernardino Valley College website that discusses the program. It is a dual enrollment program. Students earn college credits. They also earn high school credits at the same time because of that dual enrollment aspect of it. It's taught by Valley College instructors. And the extra supports that we provide come from the high school. But also part of our, collaboration and part of making sure that we provide those supports for our students, especially students with special needs, comes from our collaboration with the Disabled Students and Programs Office at the Valley College. So we help our students At the high school level, complete the paperwork and the processes so that they can get the accommodations they need from the college. So it's a huge collaborative effort. It's taught by Valley College instructors, and students receive accommodations from the community college, just like any other college student would who needed accommodations.
Thank you for sharing. I also saw a question in the chat about how Maria was able to do so many internships. And I know Maria answered in the chat, she tried to do 1 or 2 per trimester. I don't know if Graham or Maria, you could share a little more about the model that allows so much work-based learning to fit into the student's schedule.
Maria, you want to take this, or would you like me to?
I think you take it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So the idea is that students aren't bound to one internship, and they're encouraged to explore as many interests and passions as they possibly can. And so many times students will come to the school with like, oh, I love video games, so I want to be a computer programmer or a video game designer. And then they get to that site and they say, well, actually not really, I just like to play video games. And so they don't want to, they choose to find a different passion and something that they really want to hone in on and enjoy doing. And the idea is that before they move on to college or any tertiary education, that they've had a chance to explore these careers and interests so that they don't go and get into concentration that they don't end up liking and waste time and money. And so so we encourage them, if they choose that they don't like that profession or career, to find a new one and get a new opportunity.
One thing I will share that is, I guess, a difference between the model at the Met and Innovation Pathways, of course, is that there is not a single pathway that students are in at the Met. They're in a class that sort of fosters their various interests. One thing I would like to note, though, is I know some schools doing Innovation Pathways have sort of a 9th grade experience that really onboards them to different workplaces and work experiences, so that they have some of that grounding and experience before they get a little bit more focused. The other thing is you have broad industry sector focus areas here for Innovation Pathways, which does still allow a lot of room for experimentation. So I definitely would, from my perspective, encourage sites to find opportunities to get students into workplaces early and often, not just waiting for that required sort of 100-hour capstone or internship experience at the end, because it gives a lot of room for students to learn and grow.
Can I just note something real quick? Is that
Yeah.
Maria, as she explained at the beginning, is she's really interested and passionate about healthcare and helping others. And when she found an internship she learned so much about, and she said, okay, I've learned a lot here, but maybe I can deepen my knowledge and find another internship that will give me even more. And so she's moved from place to place quite effectively.
Thank you. So there was another question that came up in the chat, and I think this was directed at you all at the Met, but I would say this could be applicable to any of our presenters in terms of how students are placed in placements for work-based learning. Is it initiated by the student, by the school? Is it outreach by the partners? Some combination of both? And I'd invite any of our panelists to answer.
So here in, sorry about that, guys. Here in Mashpee, we actually have a School to Career program that happens in our senior year for our students that goes along with our Innovation Pathway. And we're very much involved also with the WIB, with our Workforce Investment Board here down on Cape Cod. So they are totally ingrained with our students. So even though I teach our younger students at the junior and senior level, our students start getting into School to Career. They start having mock interviews. When they have those mock interviews with industry professionals, they start to explore whether those might be the places they want to do their internships. They make connections. And then a lot of times those mock interviews turn into the locations where internships can happen for our seniors. So for us, we're really connected truly connected with our Workforce Investment Board and the industry, the local industry around here. We picked advanced manufacturing due to the fact that Woods Hole is down, you know, the road from Mashpee. We have a couple advanced manufacturing facilities, believe it or not, here on Cape Cod, like Sencorp, White, and Hyannis. So we felt like the things that we were doing for curriculum here for our pathway connected to the jobs that were available in our local community to try and give kids the options right here where they're raised.
Rose or Graham, maybe any thoughts from your school sites?
Yes, so in San Bernardino City Unified, oh, sorry, Graham, did you want to go? Oh, okay, in San Bernardino City Unified School District, our goal is to have every senior graduate having completed a work experience program. So we want all of our students to graduate having had some hands-on work experience, either in an internship or a pre-apprenticeship when they graduate. So that's our overall goal. We do have a new program that we're starting, and this is the direction that we're moving in. Let me see, I share the link. I want to share some links to videos, but I want you to watch the videos because I want you to listen to the panelists. So I'll add the link here, but don't, maybe you can click on it later. The direction that we're moving in is working with individual employers and having them really see the school district serving as a human resource type function. So, you know, out in the labor market, they have certain needs, and our programs are supposed to be designed to help meet those needs. And we're doing that in a few different ways. We have a new water pathway that we just began this last year that was really initiated by our industry partners at East Valley Water District. So the video that I put in the chat there tells you a little bit about that partnership. So students will be taking Valley College courses while they're in high school. They'll be earning industry-based certifications. They'll be earning college credit, and they're going to be getting internships with our local East Valley Water District. Our goal is to align our high school programs with our local college programs, and then also with industry certifications and the needs of our workforce. So our labor market, that's the direction we're going in, and we're seeing some cool stuff happening here.
Thank you. And Graham, could you share a little bit about what happens at your school to connect students to internships, where it starts?
Sure, we have a few different avenues. We have a database of previous internship sites and mentors that have welcomed interns, and so we keep track of all of that. It's a pretty extensive process because we have to do, well, like any other school would have to do background checks and things like that, and make sure that the internship was a place for students, so an appropriate place, but we keep all of that information in a database. And Maria, do you want to talk a little bit about Emblaze and how you use it?
Sure, I can talk about that. So we can use Emblaze. Emblaze is a site that other students has used. So there are other internships that you may be interested in. So you just have to apply for it. And if you don't find your site that you're looking for, if you have your own site that you want to suggest, you can do so. And that application will go through the to your teacher, to the principal, so they can make sure that it's an appropriate site for you. And they will go with you. They will make some calls to make sure that it is all appropriate for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're
Thanks,
having a
Maria.
hard time with getting your audio, Maria, but thank you. I got most of your answer. And I think Jennifer just posted a link to Emblaze, which is used, it was developed in partnership with Big Picture Learning Schools, which is the school model that the Met is one of. And it can be accessed and used by other schools as well, but it is developed and used by a lot of Big Picture schools.
Yeah, and just kind of what to highlight one piece of what Maria was saying is that she said that students can can recommend their own internships, so like family, friends, and partnerships that way. So we bring in, and it's great for our multilingual learners because we utilize a lot of funds of knowledge of families coming in. There are so many partnerships that we develop, and that bridging that gap between home and school, it really helps to do that.
Thank you. So we had a question that came up in the chat, and I guess this would be largely directed to those of you who have worked with students with special needs, but I guess you could talk about it in terms of language accessibility as well. But wondering if any of you all have suggestions for engaging with employers who may not yet have experience working with high school learners with disabilities, and sort of the kinds of supports and sort of onboarding from to the employer side or mentor side.
I can share some of the things that we've done. I know that when you first talk to an employer about including students with special needs, even just first talking to an employer about taking on some high school students, depending on their experience with students that age or with students with special needs, a lot of times you'll see some fear in their eyes. And I think one of the things that's helped us is to make sure that we have that relationship building between the employer and all the supports that we'll be able to provide. So, you know, when we talk to an employer about having a student internship with them with special needs, we say, okay, but I want you to meet the person who's going to be driving the van to bring the student to work every day. I want you to meet the parents who are here to support them. I want you to meet the aides, the instructional aides that we have in the classroom that will also be in constant communication with you. I want you to meet the teacher of the special education class. I want you to meet the people at the district office. We make sure that there's connections there. I think if an employer thinks of themselves as having to go at it alone, that's where they get scared. But when they know that they can text somebody if there's an issue, they know that there's going to be somebody available that they can contact at all times. I think that's when, you know, they start to breathe and they relax and they see this as more of a doable thing. The fear kind of goes away. And I think for us, even being able to show a small group of students who have been successful in the program who have special needs, that also helps the employers because they can talk to the employer who took the students with the special needs and say, hey, it worked. You know, we had great success. Look at the morale boost we got at our work site, and look at the great publicity we got. Look at how helpful and how they were able to actually do the same work as other students, as long as they had those supports that they needed. So showing that it's doable, having those little small wins, I think is a big deal.
Thank you so much. Any other thoughts about connecting with employers around how to support the students?
I'll just quickly note, unfortunately, Amanda had to leave us. The bell rang at her school and she had to transition. And so she sent me a note to say she was so sorry, but she had to jump off. But I said I express my appreciation on behalf of all of us, but just so you know, Amanda is not with us any longer.
Okay, and thank you. And that's one of the reasons why she made sure to provide her contact info in case anybody had follow-up questions for her.
Callie told me with Maria and supporting Maria, she tries to get to the internship site at least twice a trimester. So it's once a month or so, between 1 and 3 times. Yeah, per trimester anyway. But so that she's in constant contact with the mentor, and the mentor is in constant contact with Maria, and Maria is in constant contact with everyone. So everybody's on the same page. So if anything does need to be addressed or more supports need to be put in place, everybody's aware of it. So it's almost like a transparency that's happening.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to clarify or disambiguate, the Callie he's referring to is the advisor at the Met who is working most directly with Maria, not Callie Cornell, who is joining us today. We actually have a lot of Callies, also Callie at CCE, so it's a funny day. Thank you all for asking those questions. I'm going to ask one more question, I think, to close us out before we move to close. And it would be this last one. If you could share one piece of advice to your counterparts in other schools that might increase accessibility of work-based learning, what would that piece of advice be? Give you a second to think about it. And I would say this could be from any of you. So Maria, Graham, Rose.
Can you ask the question one more time?
If you could share one piece of advice to your counterparts in other schools, there's others here joining us from all over Massachusetts. If you could share one piece of advice on how to kind of increase accessibility of work-based learning, what would that advice be?
To be open to any partnership. I think a lot of times people have a certain view of like what an internship needs to look like, and it can really be anything because there are thousands of careers out there, and we don't need to box ourselves into certain ones that fit this mold or whatnot.
Rose or Maria, did either of you have any thoughts on one piece of advice you'd give for increasing accessibility? Okay.
Sure, I have one.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Maria.
You should never say never or don't say no, because maybe the one that you least expected is the one that you may like more or that you want to be more engaged. So always be positive about it and just have patience, not only with the staff, but also the students, because not every student has the same opportunities. So just be patient and just be open and just never say never.
Thank you so much, Maria. Rose, did you want to add your thoughts? It sounded like you were ready to.
Yes, I wanted to recommend a program that we use that has helped us with collaboration and has helped us to actually increase our access for students. You all probably already use QR codes with your flyers and that kind of thing, but being able to go and give a presentation to our teachers in our special education department at our high schools and sharing flyers with them that have a QR code where students just scan the QR code, enter their information, and there's a program called Smartsheets. I'm not sure if you're all familiar with it. I learned about it from our local workforce development board, but that has been, we have Smartsheets set up with, it becomes our, for collaboration with our partners, where we're entering information, we're having students complete different tasks and we're tracking it in there. And we have it set up so that when students will scan a QR code and fill out a form, like a Google form, we have it connected to Smartsheets so that a student who shows interest fills out the form, and we have automation set up so that when that form is filled out and the student says, I'm from Sierra High School, we have it set up so an email goes to the contact person at Sierra High School saying, please follow up with this student. A lot of times we see that sometimes, special education teachers feel like there's a disconnect, and maybe they feel a little bit left out, like, oh, we don't always hear about the opportunities. Our students don't always know about these things. Well, having that QR code set up and having them know that, yes, if you have that student complete that form, the person at your high school will be contacted because we have it all automated. So Smartsheets has helped us a lot, especially with that whole project management and accountability aspect, because we can say, yes, the person at your school site was notified, and yes, they will follow up with you. And at the district level, I can help follow up to make sure that they make that contact as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for offering your advice and your responses to the questions. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Callie, to close us out. But before we do that, I was hoping we could all do jazz hands. Thank you to our panelists from today, who have given me a lot to think about and be excited about. So if you don't mind pulling up our last few slides, Laura, I will turn it over to Callie.
Excellent, thank you. So thanks again to all of our panelists. There are so many inspiring ideas that you shared and so many ideas percolating from what you've shared with us. So thank you. And just a quick note that we'll be saving the chat and posting the slides and the transcript and the chat log on our Innovation Pathways website. So you won't lose any of the links or the good resources that were shared. So just a few quick upcoming events and reminders for you all. Just a quick reminder about the Innovation Pathways Toolkit. It's there as a resource to you. It includes processes, tools, materials, examples related to all sort of essential components of Innovation Pathways program and program design. And that toolkit can be accessed from the Innovation Pathways Technical Assistance website, the link which is on the screen now. We have a few upcoming events in the next several weeks. So on December 2nd, which is just 2 weeks away, believe it or not, we have a webinar for those who are currently in the application process for Innovation Pathways to support your thinking and planning for the Part B applications, which are due in February. We still have time slots available. There are 30-minute time slot blocks available on December 3rd for office hours. So sign up and the DESE and CCE team will be there to answer questions. We can help you troubleshoot. We can help you think through some upcoming implementation plans, really for whatever you need, whatever questions you might have, or as a thought partner, we're there to help. So we still have some time slots there. Registration is open for our January event. On January 13th, we'll have a workshop on designing for equity, where we'll explore equitable access, retention, and completion in pathway programming. So all of those upcoming events, you can register for those at the Innovation Pathways website. And finally, just a quick reminder that there is an ongoing FAQ guide that's continually being updated with your questions. So make sure to check out that document as questions come up for you. Potentially the questions there and answered. We have like hundreds of questions in there so far, and we'll continue to add to it. So just a few quick reminders. If you could go to the next slide. Your feedback, as always, is incredibly meaningful to us. We review each and every piece of feedback from every event and use it to plan for all of our future events. So we'd ask you to please head to this link that's on your screen and also just put into the chat to complete the exit survey. There's only 4 questions in there and it should take you less than 3 minutes to complete. So make sure to open that up. If you're not able to complete it right away, we'll ask that you leave it at least open in your browser so that you can head back to it and complete it before the end of today. We'd really appreciate it. And then finally, sort of just a quick bit of levity. We made it to the end of another long day. It is just about 3 p.m. and hopefully close to the end of your workday. This image is from the New Yorker and indicates how many of us feel at the 3 o'clock hour, which is a toss-up between needing coffee or a nap. And so we hope that this brings a small smile to your face today. And then with that, we'll close out. Thank you so much again to our panelists. Thank you to you all for being here and for engaging with our panelists with questions and in the chat. We always love these events and are so thankful that you spent the afternoon with us. So with that, thank you so much, and we'll hopefully see you soon.